Strategies are overrated, and most leaders are juggling a lot of them. Strategies for better results, strategies for improving team morale, and strategies for higher employee retention. At Authentic Leaders, we believe in one strategy because the research clearly shows whether it's morale, retention, or performance, it's all driven by one thing: honesty. The number one thing high-performing teams have in common is the safety to be honest with each other. The technical term is psychological safety. Why does it matter so much? Imagine a typical meeting at work. Miss Team Leader kicks things off with a big smile, thanks everyone for being there, and shares how excited she feels. In her heart, she's actually feeling frustration and disappointment with the team's recent performance. But she feels like good leaders always strike a positive and optimistic tone, and she's been worried about the team's morale. She hands things off to Mr. Go-Getter to present his idea for a new initiative, and right away, it's clear from the body language around the table that something is off. First, you have Mr. Territorial. He sees a lot of ideas as threats that could mess with his work stream. The emotion he's feeling is fear, but instead of sharing that, he asks a question that's not really a question. It's a thinly veiled critique. But Mr. Go-Getter plays along and pretends like it was a question. Then there's Mrs. Head Down. She has strong opinions about the team's tendency to jump from one new idea to another, and she's worried that's happening again. She can already envision the cleanup she will have to do, but she recently got feedback that she needs to be more solutions-oriented, and as the only woman of color on the team, she feels added pressure to protect her image as someone who is easy to work with. So she generally holds back and just deals with the consequences. That brings us to Mr. Cheerleader. He's constantly trying to crack jokes and smooth the ice, especially when things start to feel tense, because he's afraid that any conflict will harm the team. And the team usually plays along so that they can avoid having a real conversation about what people are actually thinking and feeling. And now we're all the way back to Mr. Go-Getter. He's pretending like this meeting is going well and that the team is receptive. But in his heart, the emotion is actually shame. He's known for months that his credibility with the team is dwindling, and he doesn't know how to recapture it. So he keeps looking for the next flashy idea that will win everyone over. Anyone at the table could tell him it's not working. It would just be a matter of sharing what's honestly in their hearts. But no one will. At least not until the meeting after the meeting. And Mr. Go-Getter's not even at that meeting. You might feel tempted to blame this team for not being more honest with each other, but the truth is, it's not really their fault. We're not conditioned to be honest in the workplace. This team has internalized common but questionable ideas like feelings don't belong at work and being emotional is unprofessional. Some team members are battling additional stereotype threat. They don't want to be seen as the emotional woman or the angry Black person. Plus, no one wants to hurt each other's feelings, and the pressure to produce quick results creates a constant sense of urgency that makes it feel impossible to slow down and be honest with themselves and each other. No one wants to have an unproductive meeting when there is so much they need to do. The sad part is, it's their lack of honesty that is actually wasting so much time and energy. After their meeting today, Mr. Go-Getter will keep working on a new initiative that no one wants to do. Mr. Territorial will spend time plotting with his team on how to work around it. Mr. Cheerleader will be in his head all night, second-guessing what he said and wondering what everyone else was thinking. While Mrs. Head Down will wake up at 2 a.m., her mind racing, trying to anticipate all the ways she may need to step in and do damage control. You probably get the picture. Not being honest takes an incredible amount of time. And it's not just time, it's energy. Energy that could be going into doing great work. But it can be different. Let's imagine for a moment that this team has created the conditions for each other to be truly honest. They've become one of the rare teams that have built true psychological safety. What would that same meeting look like then? It starts with Miss Team Leader kicking things off. I feel nervous to share this, she says, but the truth is that I'm feeling some frustration with our recent performance, and I know it must have something to do with how I'm leading the team, but I'm not sure how. For Miss Team Leader, it feels like a confession, but for the team, it feels like permission. Permission to take their own masks off. First, Mr. Go-Getter just has to ask, is it me that you feel frustrated with? He shares his own feeling that the team no longer sees him as someone worth listening to. And for the first time in a long time, Mr. Territorial feels his guard going down. But he doesn't know what to say. Finally, Mrs. Head Down feels compelled to break the silence. "It feels like you're trying too hard," she tells Mr. Go-Getter, "but I usually feel like I'm being too negative if I say that." What follows is an honest conversation and everything that goes along with true honesty. There's disagreement and argument, laughter and relief, new insights and understanding. Not everything gets resolved. Not everyone's problems magically go away. And yet, when the meeting breaks, people feel lighter. They feel more connected and hopeful. Even though there's a lot to still figure out, they have time to do it. After all, this time, there is no meeting after the meeting. There's no plotting to do, no second guessing, no reason to wake up at 2 a.m. They can put all of that energy into the work. There's not a different strategy for employee retention, a different strategy for team morale, and a different strategy for effective performance. There's just one strategy: creating the conditions where people can be honest. When a leader does that, so much else will take care of itself.